good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Six Rings King Show on a new night, Monday night now, baby. We're really excited, actually, to have Eric McLean on the show here, college football analyst, co-host of The Huddle. Coach, yes! All right!
First touchdown of the year.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy. Ha ha. It's a six-ring Kane show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vision, DJ break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. We reporting live from the Hard Rock Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. You see the six-ring champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards of Hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the Six Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Six Rings Kane Show. Back at it again this beautiful Monday evening. We got a lot to cover today, but first, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, PrizePicks.com. I usually don't do it first because I forget because I get so excited. And right now we are pretty excited because it looks like Kings basketball is putting a hurting on the Dukies. But before we get to that, PrizePicks.com. Make sure you check them out. Log in. When you log in, type in the code word 5, F-I-V-E, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. It's real easy. Here's how it goes. You pick 2 to 5 players, depending on how much money you want to win. Pick 2 to 5 players. Choose the over-under on their individual categories. You can mix and match players from different teams, different leagues, different sports altogether. You can do it all. So it's really interesting how you can do that. Pick 2 to 5 players, choose the over-under, and win some money. Simple as that. Make sure you log in and put in the code 5, F-I-V-E, and they will match your deposit up to $100. It's prizepicks.com. Check them out. We've got a lot of news to cover today. Not only are we going to give you who the offensive coordinator is again, like we did last week, but
y'all lied to me. I asked at the end of the show.
I know, right?
Like, who's are we going to know? And you all said, oh, yeah, no, we're going to know.
Yeah.
Nothing.
We really did lie to you.
I feel betrayed, man.
It's Mario's fault. It's Mario's fault. But not only do we know now who the new OC is, but we're going to tell you who the new DC is as defensive coordinator Kevin Steele decides to take the same position with none other than Nick Saban and the University of Alabama. He goes over to Tuscaloosa now to coach that defense, and which kind of tells you a little bit about, how bad this team was last year. That our defensive coordinator, which obviously our defense wasn't great, gets a job as a defensive coordinator in Alabama. So that kind of tells you everything you need to know there. Anyways, moving along, Vish, look, after you told me this today, I got to give you the stage. I have to give you the stage. But before I give you the stage, not before, but go ahead and give us a little update on what Canes basketball is doing to the Duke Blue Devils.
Yeah, it's a tight game. It's at the under 8 timeout. They're holding on barely to a 25-point lead. So, see if they can see this out.
Oh, man. See, I can't see the game anymore because, both TVs can be on Sling, ESPN, whatever. It's complicated. But, okay, so it's a 25-point lead.
It's a 25-point lead. I think Duke just used their last timeout. There's still like 8 minutes left. Yeah,
You know why, right? You know why we have a 25-point lead? It's because of all those players that Jim Boeheim said that we bought.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, of course. I mean, how else would we be good at basketball?
Exactly.
So nice segue. I have a little bit of before we get into the coordinator talk. Actually, I came prepared. This is what I'm not going to cuss because I know I get demonetized. But this is what Jim Boeheim said about our basketball program. Now, there's more context to this. This is what fit on the screen. So after saying Pitt bought a team, Wake Forest bought a team, Miami bought a team, people got necessarily offended because what are you talking about? And I'm going to go through a whole background on our friend Jim Boeheim here in a second. But he then amended that to say I shouldn't have said Pitt and Wake Forest. So, needless to say, I've got a problem with this on many levels. First of all, for those of you that aren't familiar with Jim Boeheim, he's a Hall of Fame coach and has won a national championship. And he did that by renting Carmelo Anthony for a year and buying him. So good for him. He has had to vacate more than 100 wins for cheating and paying players. He had to settle out of court with victims of child sex abuse because he attacked them when they accused one of his assistant coaches of molesting them, and they do have it on tape of the assistant coach's wife admitting it happened. Now the statute of limitations have run out, so he didn't go to jail for it. But Syracuse fired him because he was guilty. So this person has a problem with NIL. Now, keeping in mind that if you look at where our basketball players come from, really Nigel Pack is the only one you'd really consider an NIL guy, because Norchad's got a small deal, but I don't think it's hard to convince a Nicaraguan to move from Arkansas State to Miami. He played high school ball here. He wanted to come back home.
Exactly.
There are other players on deals, but they were here before that. So it's completely wrong, first of all. Second, if you look at his quote, like, what is he talking about? We don't give them anything. They only make like $20K. What? You're giving him $20K then? Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, what has happened is they stink, and everyone's asking him to retire. And so to deflect that, he decides, well, we can always get away with crapping on Miami. And I have a problem with that. And I generally do not go at these are all academic institutions. It's amateur athletics, sort of, right? I mean, but so generally speaking, these are all schools dedicated to the mission of educating student athletes. Like all of them. Like we make fun of like, oh, this school's dirty and that school's dirty. By and large, they have a lot of athletes at a school, and they're giving them an education they otherwise wouldn't get. It's a noble cause. This guy, though, crossed the line. Like, you don't badmouth our program. We have a lot of really good kids on this team, and it pisses me off that they can always feel that they're fine as long as they just do it to Miami. Even like the fact that it was as offensive as what's on the screen was the fact that he backed away from saying Pitt and Wake Forest. Pitt's entire team transferred in this year. Like this guy is out of his mind. He's been dirty. And by the way, I'm pro playing the players on the table, so I wouldn't even criticize that. But if you're going to be this hypocritical, you got to say something. So like I said, I'm trying to avoid cussing, but this guy is a scummy character, and he went after our school, and I don't like it. It's unacceptable. And frankly, the ACC, if they had any backbone, would suspend him. You can't be trashing other schools like this. What is this? And he did it because people are questioning why he still has a job after, by the way, he spent the last few seasons giving scholarships to his sons. Yeah, that's good. Nice nepotism you got running over there. There was a Boeheim on his team the last few years. He is frankly everything wrong with college basketball right now. The kids deserve to be paid, and everything we're doing is on the up and up, which is why it's so open. And he frankly stinks. He has not evolved. The reason that Syracuse is struggling is because they're still trying to play that 2-3 zone, which basketball has evolved into a shooting game. Like people just launch threes everywhere. The NBA is like that too. That's why scoring is so high. You can't play a 2-3 zone. That doesn't work. That's where his problem is, but he won't evolve and stays blaming it on this. He even went on to claim that the reason that Mike Krzyzewski and Jay Wright retired was because of NIL. Keep in mind, both these teams, Villanova and Duke, were in the Final Four last year. Yeah, that's why they retired. No, they just had enough. They're old. Maybe you should take a hint. It's enough. He needs to go away, but he needs to keep our school's name out his mouth because he has no right to trash our school like that. And it really upsets me when they do stuff like that because you can always punch down to Miami because we don't have the media support. It's a small school. It's always been seen as like an outcast school. So you can always get away with doing that because the second he mentioned Pitt and Wake Forest, everyone lost their minds and he backed off of it. But they were cool with him leaving Miami's name in there. I'm sick of this. It's a private academic institution in a suburb of Miami. Like, what are we talking about? What do you think this is? The hood? Like, I don't understand what he thinks is going on here. This is embarrassing for him. And frankly, the ACC, I'm upset they're not saying it. They should protect their member institutions like this when you have this guy's trashing it. Like, what's Coach L supposed to say to him next time he sees him?
Amen to that.
Yeah, Gary, I saw Nigel dunk too. I'm trying to do a thing here.
Nigel dunked, Harlan Beverly dunked, everybody dunked.
Everyone dunked. Norchad hit 2 threes. It's all going in tonight.
Crazy. This is crazy.
And then he blew a kiss up to Syracuse.
Nice.
Maybe they'll make the NIT.
All right. That's enough of that. Because if not, we could let Vish will be here all day talking about that, which I totally support. But listen, let's be honest. The people want to know. The people want to know, Larry Bluestein.
They want to know how to get Final Four tickets.
They want to know who the next defensive coordinator is now, Blue.
Yeah. All right. I can make something up. Like everybody else is.
On this show, you know?
Yeah. Every time somebody comes up with an answer, it's wrong. And you know what? I don't know what. See, but I don't understand what these people feel that they gain by just putting names out there. Well, because one will stick one time and they'll be the guru of gurus. I mean, come on. I mean, it's like getting a base hit and then going 0 for 20. You know, I mean, so there's a lot of guys out there that have, but here's the thing too, more so with Mario than any other regime. He says 0. In fact, he has nothing around his office, anything that he does dealing. He's out of the building. He takes care of it, wherever, but not there because of no matter how you think that people are going to be tight-lipped and because it can ruin a lot of deals if somebody starts saying, well, I saw so-and-so at the building, it could ruin things. So anybody we come up with is probably going to be wrong. Because he's, people now are, nobody wants to come to Miami, which is not true. Now, I do happen to know just from firsthand that, and I knew this a long time ago, and I've said this on the show. I said, as soon as there's interest in Charlie Partridge, Pittsburgh's going to back up the Brinks truck. And they did. They doubled his salary. Yep. And not only that, they gave him a position upgrade too. He's assistant head football coach. So that's what I'm saying. You want to go in there and kind of swoop down and, like, hey, listen, meet me over at my house. I'll have a car pick you up at the private airport. No one will ever see you, and we can talk things over. Because if Mario leaves here, he's got people bird dogging him. They'll follow his ass wherever he goes. So it's but it has to be soon, guys. I know we said this 3 weeks ago, but it's 3 weeks till the spring starts, and you kind of got to have somebody in place, because obviously what he's doing now, he's looking for, especially on offense, he's looking for something similar to what he had, because you're not going to learn the damn playbook in 3 weeks. And, they're going to have to run some type of offense that's going to suit the players they come back. But that's what I'm saying. At least now, if you hired somebody yesterday or today, they could come in and kind of start implementing things and, bring the quarterback, getting your quarterback coach, if it's not the offensive coordinator, in the meetings and say, listen, this is what this is what I think could work here. Because they're coming in and they're all new. If anybody really had interest in the job to the point where they knew Miami in and out, they would have taken it already. So they're just working out deals. I know that a lot of things are predicated on a lot of the other college coaches, what their universities are coming up with, how comfortable they are, the path to the next level. When you bring up a Jason Candle, you're bringing up a guy who's a head coach now. Why would he want to be he's that close to being maybe, something else, somewhere else. And why would you go? I think it takes a step back. It wasn't like Miami was 11-2 last year. He's going to have to implement whatever offensive coordinator comes in or defensive coordinator. They got to really start from scratch. So that's why I think that we haven't heard anything. Really heard anything. Listen, when Barry Jackson says he doesn't know what's going on, so there must be something, to this whole thing. But yeah, but the only thing I can say for sure is a week from now we have to know. We have to know. Next Monday night.
Well,
we'll be sitting here.
while Blue was having a nuanced discussions on the pros and cons of taking your time versus getting someone in there for the play book, there's strip club conversations going on in the chat.
Yes, and I'm all for it. Good job, guys. Good job, Fernie and Gary. That's what we're here for. Fresh to Georgia, DC. That means before I go to you, Vic, and then I'll go to DJ on this. Fresh, I'm going to address that. Why does the national championship defensive coordinator? Why would he leave the Georgia Bulldogs to come coach at the University of Miami that went 5-7? That doesn't make any sense to me. It wouldn't make any sense to me at all if I'm a national champion and coaching the best players of the best players in the country to come down here.
And to the point Blue just made, and we actually talked about this last week, that you're not getting the head job here. Mario's here for a long time.
Right.
So it's not a situation where you're coming in, you're like, oh, he's going to move on, I can ascend to the top.
You could get a head job somewhere else.
Right. So you're looking at stepping stones and literally like.
Yeah, money talks. You're right, Fresh, but that's Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia has money too. And their previous defensive coordinator is now the head coach at Oregon. So that is a stepping stone position.
Right.
He's in the limelight. He'll be both of Georgia's coordinators will be head coaches in the next few years. Like, they're in position. They're not going anywhere.
Oh, Monken is already interviewing for NFL positions.
Yeah, he might go the pro route. Otherwise, he'll be a college head coach. Like, there's
then Lanning last year left. So I mean,
those are stepping stone. They're already in the limelight, stepping stone to either like Jess said, go pro. If you want to go to the NFL, you can do it from there. Or if you want to take a major college program job, you'll get it out there.
Yeah,
there's zero. Candle's a little different in that you could potentially say there's more spotlight at Miami, and you might actually – he's been at Toledo forever. Maybe he feels like there's no way I'm going to get the big job out of here. Maybe he's given up on that, and he thinks it's easier to do it out of an offensive coordinator at Miami. So you could at least argue it to Bruce when he's a head coach now. It's a tough sell. But you could at least argue there might be a different opportunity here than he has there. But no, this is a downgrade from Georgia in every way.
Yeah,
There's literally nothing we can offer that Georgia doesn't do better.
Vish, I got this question for you, and I'll shoot it to DJ as well. Blue mentioned this really quick about timing, right? So the timing of everything that's been going on. I mean, we've known that there's been an issue with the offensive coordinator for some time. Obviously, because of other things, they weren't able to announce the Gattis firing earlier, or he wasn't quote unquote fired earlier or let go earlier. But now you're talking about having to hire not only an offensive coordinator, but a defensive coordinator. Now, there's obviously tons of rumors out there that's, the guys are ready. We know who it is. And, this is just kind of trying to get all the other pieces together. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. There's sometimes where I say I buy it. And then there's sometimes I'm just like, there's got to be more to it. So to me, for me, Vish, like, are you on the, which boat are you on, right? Are you on the boat of, hey, let Mario take his time. He knows what he's doing. We're not in a rush, yada, yada. Or are you in the boat that this is a bit concerning at this point that a guy hasn't been named yet? Like, I understand, and Blue says it perfectly, right? Like, you bring a guy into the campus, everybody's going to know who the hell it is, and the word's going to get out. And I get all of that, but at the same time, isn't it a bit concerning, Vish, that they haven't named the guy yet, regardless of whether everybody knows or not? Like, at some point, like the mind games and all that stuff and the way that he does things, does it concern you a little bit? Or are you on the other side saying, hey, I'm going to let him do his thing. I'm not worried. Take your time.
So kind of in the middle, I'm not worried about it, but I don't think he's like, oh, it's all locked up and they're just like, wait, like, these are complicated matters. Like, unless you're getting Arroyo or someone that doesn't have a job, you're talking buying him out, buying the coach out from his existing contract, working out all the details for his new contract, including, given that I know Steele left of his own volition, but I don't know that relationship was necessarily the strongest. So Mario just fired 2 coordinators or had 2 leave. So you're going to really coming in here, especially if you're leaving a position where you're settled. What's my buyout? All that stuff has to be all worked out. So even if in principle you're like, you talk to Mario and like, yeah, it's a great opportunity, I want to take it. That's just step one. Like, when you're trying to go get, this is not, bringing in Patrick Nix or something where it's like, whatever. They'll take whatever we give them, right? If you're going after coveted candidates, it is a lot harder to attract them. The money matters. All the fine details matter. Stuff that you don't even think about, like it's really expensive to live in South Florida. How much are we helping out with the housing? Do they get a car deal with it so they don't have to pay for their car? Like all of that stuff that you don't really think about makes a big difference, especially when you're coming to Miami. It's so much more expensive than a college town. So all of that has to be worked out after they decide they want to come here. So I always expect it to take us a little bit longer to close these deals off. Do I think he's like, it's all set though? No, I think there are probably negotiations going on. And if you're trying to attract a top candidate, you're not going to be like, take it or leave it by today or we're moving on. So you probably give them a time limit. Like all these things are going to take some time. And no good coach is going to really go to those final stages of the interview process until Gattis is officially fired. They might talk to Mario and all that, but there's this whole coaching brotherhood thing where they're not going to take his job when he's still in it.
Right.
So as much as, you might have taken it, using a football analogy, inside the red zone before Gattis was fired, that's the last 20 yards as Gattis showed us last year. Really hard to get. It's hard to score the touchdown. So I'm fine with it at this point. If it drags on a lot longer, like the Blues point, we're 3 weeks from spring ball, you kind of need coordinators and a playbook and stuff. So I really think they need to get it done this week.
DJ, so first of all, what side are you on? Are you decided on being worried or kind of like what Vish said, not worried, but they need to kind of get something done and have a little patience about it. Also, on top of that, and Blue mentioned this as well, like how hard it is to learn a playbook after getting it, only having it for a couple weeks, a month, or whatever the case is. Are there certain offenses that you can say, and Blue, maybe you want to chime in on this after as well. Are there certain offenses that you say, hey, I can get the playbook and in 3 weeks I learned the whole thing, or I learned the majority of it, or I understand the concepts already of a spread offense, like or a pro read, whatever it is, right? Whatever type of offense it is, like which one is easier to kind of get the playbook and learn it quick? Is there anything like that, or do they have to go the route like Blue said, is kind of go something that they're already a little more familiar with?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, I'm in the worried camp just because it is 3 weeks until spring practices start. And say, for example, you have a staff that is coming back that was here last year, an offensive coordinator that's coming back that was here last year. Spring is a time to refine the concepts you kind of already know, and then, really go after it during the course of fall camp. Now, with a new offensive and defensive coordinator in the mix, you're going to have to learn things pretty quickly during the spring and, kind of be ready essentially by fall camp. Now, can that happen easily? When you're learning a new playbook, it's very difficult. And so this is why I'm kind of worried that it's dragging on a little bit, because they do have to learn the playbook. They do have to learn the concepts, and, it's going to make things a little bit more challenging for them. Now, in terms of learning types of offenses, I remember my college team that I, helped out with, they ran a spread offense, and that type of offense was difficult to learn just because it relied a lot on the skill sets of the wide receivers and a little bit less on the running backs. Now, there are some offenses like a run pass option that could be a little bit easier to learn depending on the skill set of your players. Like, for example, if you have a running quarterback, that could be a little bit easier. But, in terms of playbook, I would, in my opinion, go with an offense that Mario's familiar with, just because of the amount of time that they have or don't have, and also familiarity with the players returning on the roster.
Blue, 2 seconds, and then we'll move into the DC talk, because we'll end with that. But is there a specific offense that you want to see Miami run, or does it really matter to you? I know at the end of the day we don't matter. It doesn't matter as long as they score points. But look, this team, has a certain skill level, right? A certain skill set with the players it has, and the new guys coming in. Is there a certain offense that maybe you want to see them run, or something that you think that could come in right away and they can learn a little quicker?
Well, to DJ's point, the whole thing is when you get somebody, think about this. I mean, you're coveting an offensive coordinator. You're bringing him in. You want him to have his own identity. You don't want to have somebody else's identity. That's why you bring in a coordinator with a different plan. Not to say that Enos didn't have a plan. His offense was okay. I didn't think that it fit, and that's the one thing too. You just can't bring in a guy who's used to running a spread and then having somebody who's going to come in more of a pro set, because you have more of a pro set quarterback and your running backs now, and you've geared your offensive line that way, and you don't have any established receivers. So to me, you got to come in with somebody who's a little bit more than 50-50. I think somebody who likes to run the ball a little bit more, I mean, not crazy, but maybe 60-40, just to give the team a little bit of balance, but to your strength. If we had two studs at wide receiver and two slots that have proven themselves and tight ends that are All-American, now I can understand, but they don't. And until that new coordinator comes in and runs his offense, that's why spring is so vital, because you could take a look, and I'm not saying the game itself, I'm just saying every day in practice, because that's where they pick up. If you remember when we had Frank Ponce on the show, he was talking about that very thing of how he learned the strengths of all those quarterbacks during practice, not so much in a game, and not in the spring game, because we know the spring game was kind of vanilla all the way. And even if the new coordinators come in, you're not going to see everything that they have, but they're going to work on them every day in practice, and they're going to send the guys out during the summer and learning this. And you got to watch a lot of film, and this is let's watch, I don't know, I'll just pick Nebraska out. Let's watch Nebraska, because this is what the type of offense we're running. And you could see how the defense reacts to certain plays, and that's how you learn. But it's to me, I think it's really essential. And I said this 2-3 weeks ago. It's always good to get somebody who's going to be calling your offense and your defense, in-house now, soon as you can, because if not, these kids are what they're doing now. And I, talk to some of the kids. I mean, they're conditioning, obviously, and they're going out and throwing the ball with themselves. And, there's no way, even whether there's an offensive or defensive coordinator, that they're going to change up running routes and still throwing the ball around. They're going to do that no matter what. So all they're doing now is just staying in football shape. They're not really running plays, because, they're not watching a whole lot of film, because you don't know what type of film that you're going to be, watching. I mean, at least when you get somebody in-house, then what you can do is then the kids could, spend a lot of the time, when they're not practicing because remember, they don't practice every day during the spring. They have days that are conditioning days, and days are film days, and he gives a couple of guys off. And like last year, I believe that they went right through spring break. I think they gave them off for like 9 days during spring break. So those 9 days, when the kids go home or whatever they do, at least they'll have something to work on. So when they do get back, that time's not wasted. And I'm firmly believing that you got to get people in authority, and your coordinators are authoritative. I think that sometimes they become a little bit too much authoritative. I mean, again, I'm not taking shots at Coach Gattis, but I just don't see how he survived at Michigan, not having an open mind, especially with somebody who's your head coach, who's been there, done that as an offensive player, So, I mean, here I can understand it, because Mario was a lineman. Okay, so I'm sure it's a little bit different being a quarterback or a receiver or a wide receiver, because you're thinking more of a skill type of player. And that's what I'm saying. I no matter who it is, at this point, I don't really care. I mean, it's because it's his decision, and he's got to live with it, And I think you mentioned Jazz, that he's got to be a little bit more careful. I think Vish had said that. because you took on somebody like Gattis because of his reputation, and hell, he was this one of the top assistants, if not the top assistant in the country for a team who was in the Final Four. So yeah, that's why I think it's essential now. I think meetings are going to be essential. There's got to be a lot of meetings. I mean, because what's going to happen is you're going to say, okay, this is the offense we're running. Quarterbacks, spend a day with the quarterbacks and the quarterback coach, and then unless the OC is a quarterback coach, which I like always to see, because then you have no guesswork. And you're pulling all the, especially when you treat your quarterback coach like they did last year. So he really was there. He was just a guy who worked with the quarterbacks, maybe technique wise. But I need my offensive coordinator and quarterback, sleeping together because they've got to be on the same page. DJ, I saw you lifting weights the other day, man. When they have that opening for strength and conditioning, coach, you better take it.
I mean, I can be strong, but my diet is nothing to write home about. So unless you want all the players to be fat, then I don't think I'm your guy. So, but no, I was just thinking too on the offensive coordinator part of it really quickly, and the defensive coordinator part of it, quite frankly. Knowing who they are before the summer, and I'll just use the summer as an example, it allows them to help formulate workout programs for the players. Like if the offensive coordinator says, okay, player Z, I need you to be faster, then they can tailor a workout program to that player. So it also kind of helps in conditioning aspects a little bit as well.
Yep. Good point. Good stuff by both of you guys. That was good. All right, let's kind of finish up here the last couple of minutes, and we'll talk about a couple different defensive coordinator names that we've been hearing through the grapevine here. And obviously, the first one.
Do you want to before we pivot? Just no is the answer to that question.
Yeah, I'll say no. No, not at all. Actually,
no, not at all.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, I asked it, and it's a decent question, just stylistically. That ain't happening.
I don't think he wants. I don't think we want to see the air raid either. So,
I think Anthony does because that's right where he's coming in. But yeah, I think it's.
Yeah, I don't want to see that, but I get it. I understand.
I will say, just generally,
it's fun. It's fun to watch. I get it.
I don't think you should put in a temporary offense to suit these players that are frankly inadequate, and then try to change it in 2 or 3 years when you upgrade the talent. I'd rather be worse now and start to set that foundation of this is how we play football.
Yep.
Because you can definitely scheme around some stuff and be better temporarily and have it cause you more problems down the road. So I'd rather just whatever they put in better be the same playbook they can run, in the playoffs in 3 years.
Yep. Young Buck says, honestly, my head hurts. I'm tired of this slow moving crystal ball. We get it, my man. Trust me. I totally understand that because I think it's hard to have this amount of patience. We had it last year and things didn't go well. So so now having to do this again and wait. Not that Mario cares about anything that we say, but at the end of the day, I mean, look, it's kind of frustrating, right? If it doesn't work,
spring.
The problem is if it doesn't work this time, then we've got a serious problem, and those pockets are going to get a lot thinner and a lot.
Well, I think it's
shallower than they are now.
As much as it failed last time on paper, it worked.
Yeah.
Like you're sitting, like to Blue's points, like if you look at the credentials of who we brought in, on paper you're looking at that and saying, yeah, that's worth the wait. That's why it took so long. It's not easy to pull Michigan's offensive coordinator in and get App State's offense coordinator to take a downgrade.
Right.
Like that. That's not easy to do. Now, obviously, it blew up in their face, and hopefully there's some lessons learned there. But so I think I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. Whoever we hire, 75% of the fan base is going to complain.
Yep.
And then we'll see what the results are. I mean, that's where we're at, right? So
that's it. Here's the name. Obviously, the most not the most popular name, but the name that I think that everybody talks about the most right off the bat is Charlie Strong. Obviously, he's already on staff as a linebackers coach, probably more suited for the role as defensive coordinator. Either way, I think he's a hell of a defensive coordinator, probably one of the best in the country as well. So, that's obviously a name we're going to hear. I think we spoke about it earlier, Blue, Charlie Partridge, who probably won't, obviously won't leave Pitt, we don't think, but stranger things have happened. Charlie Partridge. Another interesting name is Anthony Campanile, who is the linebackers coach for the Miami Dolphins. He's been rumored, and I think Mario really liked him last year as well. So he's been rumored to possibly do something like that along the lines of moving, becoming a defensive coordinator in college football. This is an opportunity for him. I know he's been in college football ranks before with Michigan and Rutgers and a couple other teams as well. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he coached under Greg Schiano's defense at Rutgers also. So he's a well-known guy, a very smart guy, and I know someone that Mario likes a lot and could possibly be a good fit as a defensive coordinator. And then you've got another name is Jeff Collins, who's another big-time guy. Coached, I believe he was a defensive coordinator for the Gators, right? If I'm not mistaken. And then obviously the head coach at Georgia Tech.
Temple.
Yeah. Or
was it
he was
Georgia
at
Tech?
Temple first and then Georgia Tech.
Temple
Yeah,
and then
Georgia Tech, yeah.
That's right. So another big time defensive mind as
Good
well.
dude too. I'll tell you what, and yeah,
Nice
I
guy.
would like that. He's a real, and I think he and Mario would get along real well because the guy's a hard worker, and
Right.
he just sometimes you land in the wrong spots.
Sure, that happens a lot. Here's another couple of names, and then we'll kind of go around the horn on who you guys want to see. Jim Leonard, Wisconsin defense coordinator, Wisconsin, or was. I'm not sure if he still is or not. I don't know what the situation is there. And then you've got everybody, the guy who everybody mentions here, the Georgia defensive coordinator, Glenn Schumann, who I just can't see him taking the position as a defense coordinator here. After winning 2 national titles in a row. I know he was the co-defensive coordinator with Will Muschamp, if I'm not mistaken, but same thing last year with Dan Lanning, and he seems to be doing all right there. So listen, Will Muschamp is another name I guess you could throw his name in the ring as well. But I think those are probably your biggest names that we've been hearing about. Manny Diaz as well. No, I'm just kidding. Got you guys. Just kidding.
Sure, you preface that.
How dare you? How dare you, man?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Before we move on from that, I think Leonard also has an opportunity to go back to a place where he was with Cleveland Browns too. They like him there. He likes that situation. So, instead of going right back into the college ranks, he may, and he's comfortable with the people in Cleveland. So I'm just dispelling things, because I know I know I watch those, all those sites that cover Miami, and you drive yourself nuts.
My gosh.
Some of the names that they come up with, but listen, I saw Manny Diaz's name.
I heard Coach Flores too. I think.
Oh yeah, that would be a great fit.
By the way, he just took the defensive coordinator position for the Vikings.
Yeah, he was next. I think they just undercut us, man. We had him locked up.
Oh my god, I wish. No. So out of those names that I gave, another one I think that was like a dark horse in this whole thing was Jamil Adai. I don't know where. I think T-Rob also, T-Rob's not going to come back to Miami to coach under Coach Cristobal. That's number one. That's the first thing. Number two, Jamil Adai. I don't, that's a long shot if you ask me. Who's the guy, Vish, that out of those names there that you could possibly see coming or that you'd like to see be the defense coordinator of Miami?
So I do think it'll end up being Charlie Strong. And that does free up another on-field position to either, I know people want to get DVD on the field. That's an option. If that's not the route that they take, then there's a good opportunity to get a young, hungry coach in here that has future coordinator aspirations, because he doesn't look it, but Charlie Strong's in his 60s as well, so he's not going to be the defensive coordinator for a long time. So, that can then be an attractive assistant coaching position. I honestly, I've been very patient with Mario. I believe, it's a long-term deal here. He's got to build a foundation. If Jamil Adai is a defensive coordinator, I got some questions. Yeah. Because I don't understand how that could possibly happen. To me, that is just so underqualified. Like, our defensive backs, Kinchin's had a great year. The rest of them look like they were completely lost. If anything, not that I think we should do this, because I'm fine being patient, letting them have a few years in the system and all that, but you could easily argue he should get canned and DVD should be the defensive backs coach.
Yep.
promoting him to defensive coordinator. To me, that's insane. I saw that rumor floating around too, and I frankly thought people were joking. Like, you got to be kidding! You can't promote that guy to defensive coordinator.
I
Not
think
right now.
Vish, I think you're right though. As time continues to get closer to spring, I think that the likelihood of bringing on Charlie Strong is gaining a lot more momentum.
Stronger and stronger.
Yeah, well, I changed it.
I know.
Yeah. I'm like, oh wow,
Oh,
not as
man.
bad as what's his name changing on what's his name, the analyst that there. I can't even think of his name, Tony Romo. But wow,
well, yeah, no, yeah.
Tony Romo's one sick dude, man.
Yeah, he is. He's got problems, man. I don't even think he's that.
But
great.
I like that. I think
He used to be good.
Vish probably agrees. I don't think he's that great, Vish. This is Dallas Cowboy fan in you.
You know, if we could have played defense one of those years, he might have won something.
Blue. Now that we're on with you, who's the guy that maybe let's say Strong is not in the equation. Is there anybody else on that list or anybody on your list that maybe you'd like to see give a shot as a defense coordinator?
Well, obviously, like I the two guys that I really like for the job, Leonard and Charlie Partridge, may be out of the mix. I'm really thinking very strongly what Vish said. I mean, how could he really not? I mean, he's a good. I think that he's a really good coach. He's had head coaching experience. He's a guy who, like, he's a DC that may have the final word, but he also coaches, and I know him really well. So the very fact that he's not hard-headed, and he understands that the objective for everybody is to win. And he's gonna, count on his defensive line coaches, and he can remain the linebacker coach very easily. And that frees up, like you said, somebody else to come in. At one position. I mean, offensively, I think it's more pressing, really, because you don't have anybody right now that you could just say, hey, he could be our offensive coordinator. Right. On staff, but you do have that at defense. So to me, I think if they're going to concentrate a lot more, unless somebody just really blows them away, like a Leonard or somebody like a Charlie Partridge or somebody of that nature, I think they stay with Strong. And why would anybody be angry? I mean, he's a good.
You can't be angry with that. That's a great option.
No, I mean, you get frustrated because of the fact that Miami's defense last year couldn't stop a bleeding nose. So, yeah. But I just think it wasn't him. I mean, he didn't put people in those schemes. Steele's, the reason why Steele's a fit at Alabama is because they have so much damn talent and they'll win despite his ass.
Right.
So, but here he had to work a little bit and he had to think outside the box, and he just. And I'm not going to blame age. I won't blame age, but I just blame just being in tune with, today's defenses and how to combat some of these crazy offenses. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, your defensive coordinator has got to be road tested enough that they've already been in the fray. They've already understood how to slow down these potent and ever-changing offenses. So, I cast my vote for Charlie Strong. I really do, because, you already have enough on your plate trying to get an offensive coordinator. Why would you go outside and unless you get somebody that's just going to come in and just change things around? And nobody's out there like that, I don't think, on the defensive side. And you could save yourself a position and, maybe hire somebody else, at another position or put somebody who's, who now, like Jason Taylor. Why doesn't he get to go out? I'd make him the co-defensive coordinator or something. And what's not to like about Jason Taylor? I was thinking about that the other day. DC at St. Thomas is as good a defensive mind as you have. I'd put him in a situation like he'd be a co-DC, and that means he can go out and recruit. And that's essential. You have him walking into your practices. You're talking a whole different deal. So he's going to land but that's what I was thinking about that the other day. You got him in the building, and you're not going to have to really, ante up anymore. I don't know what your guys' feeling is on that, but I mean, how can you take a guy who's a Hall of Famer, who's done things at every level, understands the defense, understands the fact that he called it, and I watched him at St. Thomas. He actually made guys like Nick Bonito, an average football player, into a draftable player who's in the NFL, but just working with him. And, and his kids are both really good, and his younger son's going to probably be in the NFL in a couple of years as a tight end. So I don't know. I don't know what you guys, Vish, what is your feeling on that?
Yeah, I think if you I think you kind of touched on it overall. If you promote strong, it frees up a position, and they can get creative with it. There's a lot of talent at the analyst position, or you can go bring someone new in. Again, there's a lot of strong is old too.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And so, but that gives you a good opportunity, makes it attractive to a young, hungry coach, because we mentioned how Mario's not going anywhere anytime soon. Charlie Strong probably is. Like, he's not. I don't see him here for like 5-6 years. I think he's probably more of, this might be his last stop as a coordinator. So that there is every opportunity for like a young, hungry defensive assistant to say, I'm going to come here. I'm going to work under someone that's a national championship defensive coordinator. Right? That's what Charlie Strong is. Right. We forget that because he's been a head coach for so long before coming back here. Really great person to learn under, and eventually take over one of the premier programs as a defensive coordinator, and that's your stepping stone. So that's my strongest selling point for Charlie Strong as an option is it does keep some continuity, because, man, it's been a lot. If you think about like the brain trust of the offense, and I know there wasn't a lot of communication going on, but it was certainly Gattis and Ponce. And then on the other side was Steele and Strong. If you're kind of wiping that all out, that is a lot of I know it's a bad team, so we all want the change, but sometimes continuity and just, more time with the system helps a lot.
I agree with you. And look at around, like we're talking about, Charlie Strong being gone. Look at how many great coordinators over the last just 2-3 years, when you're probably sat down on a, podcast like this and said, oh, Lanning will never go anywhere, and he's this, and, he's that, and he's gone. After that year with Gattis and Michigan, I'm sure the fans in Michigan said, oh, well, we got Gattis for a few years and then he'll become a head coach. He's gone, and he's out of football right now. He's got no job. So that's my point. I think things happen so quickly that, okay, and I agree. Somebody like Charlie Strong won't be in the game, but if he could have somebody, as you said, maybe a young, fresh face guy who could just jump right in for him when he does decide to go, that's invaluable to have somebody, working alongside of, somebody like Charlie Strong with all the knowledge and what he does. And then you have a younger, fresh face guy who, may be a little bit more innovative, and then he could just step in. But to me, you can't plan for the future anymore. You really can't. You got to go year by year because things change so quickly.
DJ, any final thoughts on the defensive coordinator, what you think and what you'd like to happen there?
I think it's probably going to be like everybody has said here, Charlie Strong. It makes the most sense in terms of timing and the fact, you guys talked about continuity, and I completely agree with that. It would be very difficult to wipe out an entire defensive system and not at least have some sort of, something to fall back on and feel comfortable with if you're a player. I would really, like Jim Leonard. I don't think he is going to come here, but he did a really good job at Wisconsin, actually took over the interim head coach role after Paul Chryst was fired. Wisconsin prides itself on linebacker play, and Leonard was a big part of that. So I think he would be a good fit for the defense in that regard, but we'll see. It's probably not going to be somebody that I just mentioned, and it's all part of the coaching carousel fun, as I like to call it.
Yeah, it's fun. That's one way to put it. That's one way to put it. Guys, we'll have hopefully next
you
Monday.
said this last week.
I know. Hopefully next Monday we'll have some more news for you guys on who will be the offensive coordinator and possibly a defensive coordinator.
What if we don't? What if we don't? Do we just freak out next week?
If we don't, Hurricanes Twitter and Hurricane fan base is gonna blow a gasket. It's gonna go crazy. And
It's always an
quite,
interesting place.
yeah, quite frankly, I think a lot of people
Yeah.
will feel that way. So
Rightly so.
it's going to be interesting to see what happens within the next week. But I do think that this is the week that we get that we get something. But just to kind of recap, Miami with a huge win, an absolute ass whooping on the Duke Blue Devils, 81-59. So that's real nice to see. They continue their dominance at home, winning at home. So they got to win some games on the road, and then we can say that they are legit this year, because I need to see them win a couple big games.
Did on Saturday.
On Saturday.
One at Clemson, who was
they did win at Clemson.
First
yeah,
place.
that was a
big win.
And because the scheduling gods hate me, next Monday, 7 p.m. at North Carolina.
Of course.
We'll get the last 10 minutes of that game going during the start of the show again, just like this week.
Oh, man.
Let's hope they're up 25
on Saturday, I think.
Yeah, well, Louisville is terrible if they don't win that game.
Just like the Cowboys game too, Vish, when you had to watch the Cowboys and we had to do the show.
That was like the finest playoff moment I've had since the 90s, and I had to do the show during it. Really unfortunate.
I'm thankful you got to share it with us. So.
I know. And then it went. And then nothing happened after that. We don't need to talk about anything else.
And by the way, for you baseball fans out there, baseball's coming up soon. I was at one of their scrimmages yesterday. Blue, Vish. This is. I don't want to say it's a different team. I don't know how different it's going to be. They are ranked 8th in the country, which is nice to see, 8th or 9th in the country, and depends on what polls you look at. The biggest question mark is going to be pitching, right? Do they have the pitching? Because I'll tell you what, this is the biggest team that I have seen in a long time out of as far as size and big boys with a lot of strength, a lot of power. They can hit the ball out of the park, hit the ball, just like left field, center field, right field. I mean, they can go anywhere and they can hit the ball a long way and they can hit the ball hard. They've got guys like Ian Farrow, the transfer from Florida Gulf Coast, who's a big kid. Obviously, Yo-Yo Morales coming back, All-American. CJ Kafis, another All-American. Andrew Walters, an All-American. And then they've got some really, really big-time recruits that came in, guys like Jason Torres, Blake Sir, and, of course, T. Martin's son. Yeah, another offensive coordinator prospect, Caden Martin, who went yard a couple times from what I heard this weekend as well. So it's a solid team. They got some other kids that have transferred in. Also, a senior from Vegas, Dario Gomez, who's a strong kid. They've got some talent on that team, especially in the lineup. I think the lineup is going to be nice. I saw, 3 kids go yard yesterday. Yo-Yo went yard. Jason Torres, the big third baseman from Miami Springs High School, local kid, big kid, man. And then CJ Kafis went yard as well off of Andrew Walters of all people. So it's nice to see those guys really swing the stick real well. Looks like a good team. I don't want to get too far into it because baseball's going to start soon. But
it's also.
But Blue, you, me, and Vish got to go catch a game.
Yes.
Soon, and we'll
maybe they'll name a milkshake after you or something.
Oh man, that would be nice.
I mean, if they're gonna name a milkshake,
come
on, what are we talking about?
It'll be after me.
It's definitely gonna be after Blue. Like, what are we talking about?
Well, come on now. They can call
I discovered last year the milkshakes don't agree with me. So I will not.
They don't agree with anybody.
Yeah, well, Jazz warned me they don't agree with him, and then after we spent 3 innings in the line to get this damn thing, I spent a lot longer than the toilet after the game. So
really?
It ripped through me. It was.
But they're so worth it. So go get them anyways.
It's worth it one time. I'll say. I'm not going back. I had one in I don't even know, like a decade at least.
I had the peanut butter one 2 years ago.
Oh man! Listen, here's the thing. Every time I go to a game, you know what Sheena tells me? Don't drink the shake.
It's so tempting because it's so good, but you're gonna pay for it later.
You are. You're definitely gonna pay for it.
I didn't know I was gonna pay for it later. It's been like a decade since I had one, and I didn't pay for it last time. And
they got a good schedule. I know they play Penn State. I know, and in Florida.
Yeah, they're opening with Penn State on the 17th, I believe. So
that'll be nice. We should have an after-hour segment here for Canes baseball called Shakes and. Oh, I'm not.
I could have done it live after that. I wasn't doing anything else. I was just sitting there paying. I might as well have gone live with it.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Anyway, yeah, I think for that team though, it's. you know, they did everything they need to do to position themselves for a big run, and then they blew it at home in the regional. I mean,
yeah.
Your whole goal is to get the top 8 seed. They did that, and it was all sitting there in front of them, and just didn't get the bats went away. The bats disappeared.
If based off obviously off of what I saw, it doesn't really matter, but they've got some big bats, man. If they can put it together, this is going to be a really, really dangerous team. They just got to be able to pitch a little bit. If they can pitch, and that's saying the pitching kind of held up actually towards the end of the season.
Yeah, and all those games were close despite them not
because of the pitching. But if we lost a couple of those guys, so if if Carson Ligon can take that next step, if Rosario can come back strong, if Gallo can kind of maintain and kind of get better as we saw him do. You got some other guys like Ben Chestnut, who I saw throw yesterday, who looks really good. Who's the other kid that I saw that threw yesterday? Oh, Brian Walters, little Walters. He looks really good too. Throws really hard. And we saw some other guys throw also. But
should be interesting. Remember last year, really only had one reliable starter.
Yeah,
towards the end of the year that you could count
towards the end,
on.
because Ligon got a little. He got that
right.
in
the Ole Miss game. They could have won the Ole Miss game very easily.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it was both the games were, especially the Arizona game. Remember that was Walters blew the save. I mean, it was an error. It started with an error, like 2 outs, grounded to short, easy out to end the game, and win was it 2-1 though. It wasn't a hitting masterclass, but no. Threw it away and lost the game. But I mean, we'll see. That whole series was weird. Remember the tropical storm came through. They're dodging rain delays. Games got delayed all weekend. It just wasn't our year. Maybe this year will be. So,
maybe we'll have fun talking with Canes baseball this year, I think so. Thank you guys for joining us on the show. We'll see you guys next Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Adios.
The 6 Ring Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Ring Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rings Kane Show.